Hello, it is June 3rd, and I have read A Comedy of Errors. I have actually seen this play before. The Flying Karamazov brothers do a version of this, which I have seen twice. It's available on YouTube. It's very cirque and juggling focused, and I think it brings exactly what this play needs, which is a lot of high energy. For those of you who don't know, A Comedy of Errors is an adaptation of an ancient Roman play called Menechmi, in which two brothers are separated from birth and find themselves back in the same city. In this version, two twin brothers, both named Antipholus, find themselves separated at birth alongside their slaves, also twin brothers named both Dromio. Two of them grow up in Syracuse. Two of them grow up in Ephesus. The ones from Syracuse find themselves in Ephesus, and comedy ensues through mistaken identity. This is a very short play, and I think that's a good thing because it suffers a bit from Seinfeld Isn't Funny. Seinfeld Isn't Funny is the phenomenon where something that is relatively novel when it first comes out gets redone, reworked, subverted, and expanded upon so much that when looking back on it in the present day, it looks trope-filled and not very different or exciting. This, of course, being an adaptation from 400 years ago, adapting a work that is from 2200 years ago, we have definitely used this trope a lot, especially in the 90s and early 2000s, to the point where it's not especially creative or exciting. This play absolutely has many jokes in it. It's not just the same joke over and over again, but there is one particular joke that it absolutely loves to tell. You did this thing! No, I didn't. Yes, you did. No, I didn't. The person that actually did the thing is his twin brother. That's the joke. I am underselling it. It is a very funny joke. And in fact, it's so funny. It's funny multiple times, but you can only tell the same joke so many times before it gets old. For me, this joke crossed the threshold from being funny to being frustrating in Act 4, Scene 4, where it came to a head where everyone was just yelling at each other and insulting each other. Everyone refused to believe that anything other than their reality could possibly be true, and they called anyone who said otherwise a liar or an ass or a harlot. This, of course, again, isn't too bad because the show is pretty short. Act 4, Scene 4 is right towards the end of the play, which is significantly better than if this joke started to get old halfway through. Ultimately, it results in a show that is pretty fast-paced, pretty short, and tells a very funny joke that does work through most of the show and ends up getting to a pretty good ending. Most of the monologues in this play are heavily expositionary and as such aren't especially standoutish on their own, but there are a few exceptions. My favorite of which being from Luciana, who is the sister of the wife of the version of Antipholus that is in the place that they are. She is talking to the wrong Antipholus, the one from Syracuse, but she's lamenting to him out of love for her sister, asking him to be a better husband. The thing I like about this monologue is that it very clearly shows a lot of love that she has for her sister, and she's doing something clever, which isn't a thing a lot of characters do in this play. Instead of appealing to some better nature, she's appealing to his logic. She doesn't necessarily want him to actually love her sister, to actually believe that she should be treated well, but to treat her well for practical purposes and make her believe that she does love him. If you did wed my sister for wealth, then for her wealth's sake, use her with more kindness. Or if you, like elsewhere, do it by stealth, muffle your false love with some show of blindness. Let not my sister read it in your eye. I like the practicality behind this. I like the fact that it is appealing to reason rather than appealing to some sort of greater good. Because the reality is that she just wants her sister to be happy, and it's okay if she's happy through lies or if she's happy through practicality. She's happy, and I think that's really sweet. It's not Shakespeare, but oh wait, this play isn't exactly filled with especially memorable quotes. Most of the jokes are puns, and a lot of them are very funny, but also very mid. However, there is a couple of times that Shakespeare gets, like, pretty philosophical about specifically time. There's a point in time where Dromio of Syracuse is talking about Antipholus to Antipholus's wife and sister-in-law, and they are talking about how he is in debt. He got in debt because one of the Antipholuses bought a chain and the other one got the chain, and the one who bought the chain but didn't get the chain is refusing to pay because he never got the chain. Anyway, the clock goes from 2 o'clock to 1 o'clock, and they talk about how weird it is that time is turning back. And Adriana says, "As if time were in debt, how fondly dost thou reason?" To which Dromio says, "Time is the very bankrout that owes more. He's worth to seasons. Nay, he's a thief too. Have you not heard men say that time comes stealing on by night and day?" And that was, like, weirdly philosophical given what the rest of this play tends to do. And my absolute favorite line in the play also deals with that. There's a character who is describing the fact that they are not being recognized by another character because they look different, because they look older. And they describe that as, "Careful hours with time's deformed hand have written strange to features on my face." The idea of time being the artist that is writing or drawing new features onto the faces of people as they age is something that I think is really beautiful and interesting. And if I remember correctly, I believe is an image that Shakespeare also reused in a sonnet. But it's a nice little line. It's not Shakespeare, but this play isn't exactly filled with particularly creative or nasty insults, with the exception of one section where Dromio of Syracuse is describing how unattracted he is to a kitchen maid because she is dark-skinned and fat. But other than that, most of the time, people definitely are insulting each other a lot, but they're insulting each other very generically. They're just calling each other ass and harlot and fiend. There are long sections of people insulting other people, mostly in the third person, and none of them are particularly creative. They're just normal insults in large amounts. So I'm going to use my favorite insults to point out not necessarily something that's actually a creative insult within the text, but rather something that I find funny could have been considered an insult at the time. There's a point in time where one of the characters is insulting in the third person a quack doctor and refers to them as a threadbare juggler. And I found it very funny that juggler could be used as an insult. It's used earlier in the play as well to describe the people of the city that they're in. But upon further looking up, they're not actually referring to jugglers as we know them. My Riverside translates it as sorcerer, and looking more into depth in it, jugglers is what we called magicians of a sort. The main difference between sorcerers and wizards and jugglers being that jugglers are magicians that use dexterity. So they're magicians who are using sleight of hands and tricks. So if you refer to someone as a juggler, they might be a sorcerer, but one without any actual divine ability. Which fits with this. He's also calling him a fortune teller, a mountebank, sharp-looking wretch. Like it works within the lines. It's just funnier in today's context than it ever was. You know, it's not Shakespeare. Get it? Do you get the joke? I'm making the same joke over and over again. Do you get it? Do you get it? Ultimately, this is a very fun play. It's very high energy, and I think it's a good read. I do think that there is so much slapstick and physical comedy that if you're watching it live, there's probably a much bigger difference in quality between different people performing it than there is between this and some of the other plays of similar quality. But it's short, it's fun, it's not Shakespeare, but I don't think it is at all a bad start. Join me next time for The Taming of the Shrew.